It happened again. Krang was left behind wondering why he was defeated once again by those accursed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But this time, things would take an irregular turn. This one time could be his one last chance to not only defeat the Turtles and conquer the universe, but to also conquer two multiverses. Join me today as I review the last Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover miniseries. The story titled Crisis in a Half Shell. This crossover was published in 2019, a year that marked the 35th anniversary of the Turtles and Batman's 80th birthday. A Bat Shellebration, if you will. But dear Turtle Nexus, you're writing right now, you haven't covered any of these stories, and you're already jumping to the final chapter? For that, you can blame our loyal channel viewer, Lucas Gibbs, for making such a timely suggestion. Thank you, Lucas. Having said that, you don't really need to read the previous two chapters to understand this one. And no, you also don't need to watch the animated movie that loosely adapted the first miniseries. All you need to know is that Batman and the Turtles already know each other, and that this version of the Turtles is a variation of the IDW characters with some elements of other iterations. But there is something extra that makes this story so special. It actually started on the Mirage universe, the original Turtles Earth, or as we've been calling it for the past 14 years, the Turtle Prime Earth. It all started when the original Raphael was chasing the purple dragons. The skies turned red and a huge technological ball appeared in the skies from behind the clouds, the Ultra Technodrome. It may have taken a while, but Krang's robot army successfully captured the Turtles and tied them to its crisis tower. Krang was euphoric to have finally found the original Turtles, as this finally confirmed his theories. You see, Krang's theory was that he kept getting defeated by the Turtles because he wasn't a part of the original universe. And since all the other iterations derived from the Turtle Prime universe, and that Earth was never conquered by him, then the rest of the universe rejected the concept of Krang being their conqueror. Therefore, conquering the original universe would unlock his unstoppable fate as a conqueror of the multiverse. All this may sound like nonsense to you, but it may be one of those situations where you had to be born in Dimension X to understand. Now, I know what you're asking right now. Krang already has the four turtles and is conquering the world. Why isn't this story over? Well, you see, Krang was ambitious. He wasn't just going to conquer the multiverse like a loser. No, he realized that conquering one multiverse was too low of an objective. And perhaps 3 was a stretch and a licensing nightmare. So he set his mind to conquer 2 multiverses, with the other one being the DC multiverse, or the metaverse, or whatever else it's freaking called these days. And he used the same logic to conquer the DC multiverse. He went to its progenitor Earth and kidnapped one Batman. Which Batman? Well, the designs say this was the Golden Age Batman, but the yellow oval screams Silver Age to me. My interpretation was that this was Earth 1 from pre-Crisis on Infinite Earths. Still, calling it a progenitor Earth would be an oversimplification. And suppose you had to pick one character that inspired many different universes. In that case, it should really be Superman. But I guess that would have been a different story, wouldn't it? Anyway, Krang kidnapped that Batman, intending to combine the 2 multiverses, conquer it, and then create a new multiverse where his victory was programmed from the start. To achieve all of this, Krang had to defeat the Anti-Monitor. Now, I don't know how much you know about the Crisis on Infinite Earth story, but it took heroes from the entire multiverse several battles to defeat the Anti-Monitor. And they barely won. But let's pretend that the Anti-Monitor was having a bad day, shall we? Now, inside the Anti-Monitor armor, Krang activated his Crisis Tower to merge the multiverses, something borrowed from the Infinite Crisis saga, which was a sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths, which DC published many years later when they were running low on ideas. In any case, Batman is always prepared for everything, and this wasn't the exception. He freed himself and the Turtles, and together fought against the robot army. Batman also, not surprisingly, had a plan. He saw Krang was crossing the worlds with a portal, so with the help of a mother box, the plan would be to go into the new multiverse and fix it by breaking it open from the inside. Unfortunately, the robot army was better than usual, and only Raphael made it to the new multiverse. The entire second act takes place in this new reality, where the story is quite different from what we knew. Here, Joe Chill stole a truck full of mutagen at the same time that the Waynes went to the cinema to watch The Mark of Zorro. After the show, Bruce saw a street vendor selling animals, 4 of them being terrapins. His parents thought this was a good idea, and Bruce named them after the artists he learned about in school. Thomas decided to take a shortcut through an alleyway where they were hit by the stolen truck. One canister of ooze escaped from it, exploded, and bathed the turtles, who then fell into the sewer. Bruce was so shocked by seeing his dead parents, he fell down an open manhole where he was seen by a rat. This rat was Splinter, and after being mutated, he adopted the young Bruce and the 4 turtles, raising them all as his sons. Splinter said he took the role of a servant to comfort him, but maybe he just liked wearing fancy clothes. It was never explained why, but their lair was located below Wayne Tech, and their presence was often protected by Lucius Fox, who ran the company. One can only assume that Bruce asked him to keep their existence a secret. Fast forward to the present, the skies were red and Batman was hunting members of the Smile Clan, a group of ninjas ran by the Laughing Man. The Smile Clan was trying to steal an interdimensional meteorite from New Gotham's museum. This Gotham was actually a hybrid between New York from the IDW universe and Gotham from the DC universe. This is an important detail. Make a mental note of that. Batman and his brothers came to the rescue as usual, but let's take a moment to see these turtles. Raphael was clearly mixed with Jason Todd, also known as the Red Hood. Donatello was mixed with Tim Drake, also known as Red Robin. Michelangelo was mixed with Damian Wayne, also known as Robin. And Leonardo was mixed with Dick Grayson, also known as Nightwing. But something happened when the Joker activated the meteorite. Batman saw for the first time a glimpse of his other reality. He saw the Joker. The Laughing Man had henchmen. 2 of them looked like Bebop and Rocksteady, but they were actually Killer Croc and Clayface. And then there was a Harley Quinn, who maybe you could imagine as a stand-in for Karai, and Deadshot, who's a stand-in for... I don't know. Deadshot? The police force was being corrupted by the Smile Clan, and Gordon was pretty much fighting alone against them, except for the help of an incorruptible police officer, this universe's version of Casey Jones. Take that, Stephen Amell. The Joker escaped with the meteorite, and I guess it became a paperweight because it never came up again in the story. Back to Batman, the sight of the Joker left him confused. This, paired with some weird dreams of fighting alongside a young black-haired human, made him start to doubt his reality. This was when the original Raphael, who traveled all over the multiverse until he found them, interrupted them in their lair. You see, there were many universes in this mixed multiverse, but these were the turtles that successfully defeated Krang before, and they were also from the universe where Krang came from. And this Batman's universe was the source of the multiversal weapons. Krang combined them to make them weaker, which is probably some very sophisticated Dimension X logic. Raphael urged them to start remembering and awakening critical characters in this world to start separating the universes. And they didn't have that much time, as Krang was already aware of his presence there. In fact, Krang was more than simply aware. He was already scheming with the Laughing Man remotely to destroy them. After hearing Raphael's story, the Turtles and Splinter started remembering their origins. But not Batman. Something was blocking Batman from remembering his origins. Influenced by Splinter, he went to Wayne Manor to try to remember more. And there he found Alfred, who was still waiting for him, and immediately recognized him. The moment they made physical contact, Bruce started remembering his original trauma. In their efforts to wake up the people they knew, the Turtles contacted April, a lab assistant at a company named Stockman. They helped her remember just in time, as the Laughing Man was aware that April was an essential character and was already waiting for them. However, his plan wasn't to kidnap April, but to recover the original Raphael. Before being beamed away, the original Raphael warned the others that they needed to bring back the Foot Clan and the real leader of the clan. By then, the Turtles had abandoned their merged personalities and went back to their classic IDW look. Together, they paid Oroku Saki a visit and convinced him to make an alliance. Saki started taking over the members of the Smile Clan and recreated the Foot, and their goal now was to help the Turtles awaken the Joker. Following Krang's orders, the Laughing Man went after Casey Jones, but April got there just in time to awaken him. With Casey now in full form, the Laughing Man had no choice but to retreat. To wake up the Joker, Batman made Gordon remember his old life, and they set up a trap for him at Ace Chemicals where they faced each other, and the Laughing Man fell into a vat full of chemicals. This woke up the Joker, but unfortunately the potential of chaos was too tempting for him, and he used a mother box that Krang gave him to open a portal for the Ultra Technodrome to unleash Krang's forces upon their world. Trying to get the mother box out of the Joker's hands, Batman remembered Jason's death. This made him abandon the fight to find another clue to finally separate both worlds. Splinter sent the Turtles to fight Krang while he stayed behind with the Shredder, fighting the robot army. And yes, Splinter and Shredder fought side by side, but Shredder didn't even try to kill Splinter because that wouldn't make any sense considering they were fighting for the fate of their world. It would be crazy to do something like that, you know? But Splinter eventually abandoned the fight and joined April and Alfred, who were trying to find out where Batman went. Bruce activated the Bat Signal, something that was present in the universe but wasn't really being used, to ask for extra help. Apparently he realized he wasn't recovering all his memories because that would be the same as admitting that he was lonelier than he thought, that he grew up alone without 4 brothers and a father figure. But he was wrong. He wasn't completely alone. And that was when Damian, Red Hood, Red Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl arrived, just in time to see the Ultra Technodrome show its nose from behind the clouds. In Krang's place between worlds, the Turtles freed their Mirage counterparts and Batman from the Crisis Tower, delaying Krang's plans to destroy New Gotham with his energy emitter. Removing the Turtles from the tuning fork stopped the merging of the universes. But the essence of both progenitor Earths was still inside the tower, so they needed to destroy it. The Bat family joined the Turtles and the multiverses started vibrating out of sync. This forced the people in New Gotham to move to places that existed on their original Earth or was being torn apart. To complicate the fight against Krang, his armor was made of antimatter. Destroying it would kill everyone but him, so they needed to find an alternate way of stopping him. But first, they needed to send the Prime Turtles and the original Batman back to their Earths. Then they blew up the Crisis Tower. This forced Krang to assimilate its power into his armor, and he even tried to fuse the Turtles and Batman together. But they were too strong now to be weakened by Krang, and after blowing up the Technodrome, they jumped back to New Gotham. Now all they needed to do was wait for the split. The characters said goodbye to each other, but they left with a gift. They now had memories of spending a lifetime as a family, and the Turtles named Batman an honorary turtle. Just like with the previous stories, this miniseries was written by James Tynion IV. The art was done mainly by Freddie E. Williams II, but all the Mirage Universe sequences and characters were done by Kevin Eastman, the Turtles co-creator. Colors were done by Jeremy Caldwell, and letters were done by Tom Napolitano, who gave characters from different universes their own fonts. As I mentioned earlier, this story was heavily inspired by Crisis on Infinite Earths and its sequels. Krang inside of the Anti-Monitor body was an idea that James Tynion had in his mind for a while, and one day at the San Diego Comic-Con, he told his idea to Freddie, and the two agreed to make the story happen. In case you haven't heard of the original Crisis, it was a 12-issue maxi series where the heroes of the DC multiverse fought against the Anti-Monitor. The saga rebooted the DC universe and revitalized characters like Batman, Superman, The Flash, and Wonder Woman. Of course, then DC started liking reboots too much and there'd be many sequels, like Zero Hour, Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, Final Crisis, Final Crisis V2, Final Crisis V2 -- this one in uppercase, etc. Now you could ask yourself if the Mirage Turtles in this story were the real original Ninja Turtles. Well, the Mirage Turtles only learned about the Turtleverse during the events of Volume 4, and by then the Purple Dragons were no longer around. So to a Mirage purist, these couldn't be the real Turtles. But we could also just relax and enjoy the story like the normies. In my personal opinion, the whole story's visually stunning, and the mix of styles with the Mirage Turtles is perhaps one of the highlights of the miniseries. The story's mostly fine, but there are many elements around Krang's plan that it's probably better not to overthink much. If it helps, I think that the Crisis stories that inspired this one also abuse comic book logic too much, so let's imagine it was an intentional artistic choice, shall we? If you made it this far, perhaps you're in the mood for more Batman or for more Turtleverse, so here are 2 options for you to explore. Thanks for watching.